Hello, everyone. Oops, this is Professor Maloney. I need to oil my chair. Good morning if you're watching at this time. Mine does not have Mountain Dew. I don't know if I've said that before. This has, and it's not Diet Mountain Dew either, even though it says diet. It's water. All right, so today I'm going to create a little video recording. And again, I'm going to try to make it less than 40 minutes. It's 11:11. I probably will not be successful. I never seem to be successful at making these more efficient. So I apologize again in advance. But anyway, I'm going to be creating a programming example to help you with programming exercise 7-1 at MindTap specifically. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. That means I'm going to be using an enum, I'm going to be using a function, and I'm going to be using if statement logic with a switch structure. Okay, that's everything they did in 7-1. In 7-1, you're getting the shape of a triangle, so I'm doing it as the shape of a square. Well, the shape of what could be a square or a rectangle, or not square, not rectangle. All right? Let's have fun. I've already got the program done. It's a matter of me then explaining it to you. And that will be my goal. So let me share my screen here. And then we'll get to it. All right, hide that. So let's again make sure we are recording. Yes, we are. We are sharing. Yes, we are. I have audio on. Yes, yes, yes. Good. I'm not sharing video right now, but I will be when I share my application. All right, so I'm doing that. Actually, I am. I'm sharing my application. Okay, so now, first of all, let's go to MindTap. I've already got it open, so I don't have to waste time. So Unit 7 code, programming example, or exercise 7-1. So if I click Start the program, it's obviously going to bring me to where this thing has the instructions. Okay? Now, so it tells you, basically it's got 3 sets of instructions. Define an enumeration type called triangle type that has the values scalene, isosceles, equilateral, and no triangle. So you're going to have an enum, it'll be enum space, triangle type, spelled this way. Open curly brace, not parentheses, curly brace. Scalene, comma, isosceles, comma, equilateral, comma, no triangle, close curly brace, semicolon. Okay, you're going to have that. That is the enum. You're also going to create a variable for this triangle, for this triangle type, and you can make that triangle type anything you want, but I would just basically say, you want to have it with a similar name. You already have that as a variable, as your enum. So then just go ahead and say triangle type, maybe. That's what you're going to be doing. And then the name you want to call the triangle. So maybe triangle shape. And then in this case, it'd be open parentheses. And then you have to have the numbers, because it takes numbers to create a triangle. You have to have 3 numbers. So you can call them double side 1, double side 2, double side 3, with commas in between. And then close that parenthesis and put a semicolon. So then you have a variable to represent the enum. And again, when I show you my code very soon, based on squares or rectangles, or no square, no rectangle, it would be similar to this. Yours are scalene, isosceles, equilateral, or no triangle. Okay, theirs takes 3 arguments. Mine takes 4 to determine the shape. Then they want you to write a function, triangle shape, that takes as parameters 3 numbers, each of which represents the length of a side of the triangle. So you could have a void, because you're not going to have to return this thing. You can just make a void print shape, okay, as an example of the name of a function. So void print shape, open parenthesis, and then triangle type, and then whatever you called that triangle, for your variable. You can actually even call it triangle too, really, if you want it. So then just that, all right? And then close the parenthesis and put a semicolon. So then you have your enum, then you have a variable for the enum, and then you have a void non-value returning function. And I'm going to do all three of those, or I'm going to show you all three of those now in my example. All right, so over here now, this is my code for what I'm doing to help you. So example code to help students with programming exercise 7-1. In this program, the user inputs 4 numbers. In the case of the triangle thing, you're inputting 3 numbers. So in this one, if all 4 numbers are the same, then the program should be a square, right? Like if it's 10 inches wide, 10 inches high, 10 inches, every shape is 10 inches. Obviously, we're not going to put them as 10 with the double quote marks for inches. We're going to obviously be using just, in this case, I'm going to use integers. They're using double, but I could have used double. All right, but anyway, so if all 4 numbers are the same, then we're going to have a square. If those 4 numbers are not all the same, then we have to figure out, well, is it a rectangle? So for a rectangle, you have to have, as an example, with 4 numbers, the first number and the second number might match. And if they do match, then do the third number and fourth number match, but with different numbers. Meaning, as an example, the number 10 and the number 10, and then the number 20 and the number 20. So 10 and 10 match. That would be number 1 and number 2, they match. And then 20 and 20 match, so numbers 3 and 4 match. So that would be a rectangle, not a square. Okay? Another example for rectangle, rectangle, would be the first number and the third number matching, and the second and the fourth. So if the first is 10, the second is 20, the third is 10, the fourth is 20. So in this case, 10 is the first number, 10 is the third number. So the first matches the third. 20 is the second number, and 20 is the fourth number. So the second and fourth match, and the 1 and 3 match, third match. So again, it's a rectangle. But then there's one more with rectangles, and that could be that the first number and the last number match. So if it's 10, 20, 20, 10, the first and the fourth are both 10. And the second and the third are both 20. So again, you have 2 different comparisons that match up, okay? And if it's none of that, meaning maybe you have 10 and 10 and 12 and 20, well, you don't have enough to make it a rectangle, and it's definitely not a square, so it would return not rectangle, not square. All right? Okay, so let's talk about my code. So I created an enum called square type with 3 enumerators, that's values, which our program will compare to see which shape the 4 numbers of input provided by the user represents. The values within this enum will be square, but it'll be in caps, rectangle in caps, and not square, not rectangle, also in caps. And here we go. So on line 7, my enum, okay? Square type, that's what I'm calling my enum. So enum square type, open curly brace, square, comma, rectangle, comma, not square, not rectangle, close curly brace, semicolon. So when you declare an enum, remember the enum itself cannot be changed. This cannot be changed. So I must be returning a square, a rectangle, or a not square, not rectangle. Okay? Okay. Excuse me. Now, next I'm declaring a square shape variable. This is just me taking it like on the other, in the other program, I used triangle shape. In my version, I can't give you my version, but so mine's triangle shape. So here I'm saying square shape, right? For enum square type with 4 integer numbers, though, now to capture the input from the user. So again, line 7 is declaring an enum. Remember that an enum must have enumerators or values, and it doesn't have to have a name, but it really, really should, as you saw in my chapter 7 overview video. Okay, so you can make it literally exactly this right here when you're doing yours, but yours would be enum triangle type, open curly brace, capital scalene, comma, capital isosceles, comma, capital equilateral, comma, and then no triangle, capital, or no underscore triangle, and then close the curly brace and a semicolon. Yours would be exactly this, okay? So now, remember the enum is called square type, okay? So now I'm declaring a variable on square type. So I don't use the term enum now, okay? But the variable is where I then get to use numbers and let these numbers be different every time. I can't do it in the square type. The square type is returning these values. They're string values, really, but I mean, that's what it's returning. We're determining whether it's a square, a rectangle, or a not square, not rectangle. That's what, you know, I changed the program to be. So down here, if we use the term square type, that means it is this enum called square type. But now, if I put a new name after that, so I get a space and then square shape, what this means is I'm calling this variable. And then instead of a curly brace, opening curly and closing curly, I have opening and closing parentheses. And here, just like when I have functions that I showed you to do up on top of int main, here we have to have variables that are going to represent what we can take. I'm only saying whole numbers. So int length 1, int length 2, int length 3, and int length 4. Okay? Because remember, it's going to take 4 numbers to determine if it's a square, a rectangle, or a not square, not rectangle. And yeah, I thought about doing trapezoid and irregular parallelograms, but I said, I don't want to make it too complicated. So just it's either square or it's rectangle or it's neither. All right. Okay. So in your case, again, you could then do that thing here and you would have it whatever. So you could say triangle type, because that's the one I told you to make for yours up here. Mine's square type, yours can be triangle type. So down here, you would then say on line 10, triangle type, okay? And then you call it whatever you want to. You could just say triangle, okay? In mine, I'm saying square shape. So you could say triangle shape if you want to, right? And here I have int, and int. In yours, based on what I did, I don't remember if that was required, I made them double. And you need 3 variables, not 4. So you'd have double. You could say length 1, but I think there also, remember, sometimes the instructions tell you what they want you to do. So I used anyway, side 1, you know, double, side 1, comma, double, side 2, comma, double, side 3, close the parenthesis, parentheses? Yeah, I always get confused. The parentheses and then a semicolon. You don't need 4 variables. Then we need a non-value returning function prototype. We could technically use a value returning, but when you're using shapes or when you're using words, in other words, you're using strings, it's much easier to just code it and let it return, but not return to int main, just to your function underneath int main and let it just stay there, okay? So you could just have, where I have void print shape, you know, you could have it void print shape again. It could be exactly the same as mine. So void print shape, that's perfectly fine. And then over here, instead of square type, remember mine's square type, I said yours should be triangle type. Then instead of shape, maybe triangle, right? Whatever you use though here, if you refer to it below, you have to use it the same way, okay? So you do need 3 things. 1, an enum, all above int main, I'm saying. So an enum, for this one, I'm calling it square type, all right? When you declare an enum, it needs an opening and a closing curly brace with the values, or what we normally call enumerators, in between, you know, a couple commas, all right? So my choices are either square, rectangle, or not square, not rectangle. Your choices are going to be either scalene, isosceles, equilateral, or no triangle, all right? And I would declare them all uppercase. Like I said, and when you have more than 1 word, put underscores between the words, right? Okay, now I'm not going to talk about yours. I'm just going to talk about what I've done now, okay? But again, since I'm on this void again, before I get down to int main, I'll repeat it one more time. So for yours, you could have this void statement here. Remember that void means non-value returning function, okay? So what I put in line 12, declaring non-value returning function prototype, remember the prototype's above int main, to tell us the type of shape that was represented by the 4 numbers, square, rectangle, or not square, not rectangle. That's what I'm saying we're going to be doing. In your case, that void is going to be for yours, but I would still use the same, what I did, print shape. Print shape is a perfect term. But an open parenthesis like here, and then where I have square type shape, square type, remember, is my enum up here. Remember the enum? Square type. So when I create a variable on it, it's still square type first. So yours could be the same thing, but triangle type. If you use triangle type, then down here, triangle type, okay? And then here, though, you don't put a comma. Then it's space. And then if you want, just put shape again. You can actually do it exactly like that, all right? Shape that. And then we're in int main. All right, so in int main, we need some variables. Why? Well, the program requires 4 numbers, and I'm just having the user enter those numbers, okay? So I'm calling them length 1, length 2, length 3, and length 4. In yours, it might be double, and then side 1, comma, side 2, comma, side 3. All right. Then, of course, a statement to the user. Be sure to look at this thing here, to see if they put any specific directions. That's the directions, right? Tasks. Let's see the tasks. Make sure that you look at this stuff. See here, if it tells you what to do. So I don't know that they're, oh wait, enter the lengths up to 4 sides. This thing here. Oh, this is mine. Sorry, because I ran mine just to show that you'd get a 0%. Sorry, but then I deleted it because I don't want you to see mine. And ironically, if I put mine here, and I may have done it by mistake once or twice in the past, but if I put it here, and because I'm the professor for the class, it overrides everything else, so it would be there for yours too. But anyway, just make sure that if it barks at you when you're running your test decks about the output, not what's expected in terms of like string statements to the user, make sure you look to see if they want you to do it a certain way. Okay. Anyway, all right. So in int main, I need 4 variables, and then just enter the lengths of the 4 sides of a shape. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So in your case, I would say enter the 3 lengths up the side, up the 3 sides of a triangle. If they then tell you that's not right, then look specifically in the instructions, because my instructions are now based on me running it to verify I got a 0. So make sure that yours works with what it needs to have. All right. So then I'm just doing my C input statement, length 1, length 2, length 3, length 4. Remember, after they enter the first number, like in my case, I'm just going to enter. Then enter the second number, enter. Enter the third number, enter. Enter the fourth number, enter. Alternatively, you can just type the first number, hit the space bar. Type the second number, hit the space bar. Type the third number, then enter. All right. So then I'm saying the shape is, and now that's it. That's all we have to do basically in int main. I mean, other than call, the function. So the shape is, and you can put the same thing, the shape is, and then calling function definition to determine the shape of the object based on the 4 numbers entered. Yours would be the same to determine the shape of the object based on the 3 numbers entered, or you can say the shape of the triangle. I mean, if you're putting the comment, okay? So here again, I've got print shape, square shape, okay? Length 1, length 2, length 3, length 4. Remember here, I'm typing things in based upon the user, right? So I'm calling print shape, square shape. And then though I'm taking the 4 values, all right? And then I'm ending int main, right? So that literally the next line ends int main. Ends int main. So let's now go back below int main, and then I'll come explain this print shape, square shape. So underneath it, you always have your function, right? Here's our function, void print shape, square type shape. Needs to be the same as it is when you create your function above int main. Void print shape, square type shape. So void print shape, open, square type shape. Void print shape, open, square type shape, close. Exactly the same, right? No semicolon down here on the function though. We're up here before the function. Before the function, you have your semicolon. All right. Okay. So in other words, line 14 has to be the same as line 29. Okay. Then, so what's happening here though is there's print shape, square type. So in this case, it's calling square type, and square type is the enum, right? This is the enum. It has to be a square, all in caps, because up here, I put them all in caps. So the same with you with your isosceles, your scalene, your equilateral, or your no triangle, put them all in caps the same way so that when you're down here, you then use the same logic or you're going to get squigglies under these for errors, okay? And the word shape is because I'm using shape. So in other words, this print shape is going to take only one argument, and the argument is if it's square, type out square with a capital S. If it's rectangle, type out rectangle with a capital R. If it's not square, not rectangle, I just wrote it all out with capital first letters, and then I didn't put the underscores anymore. Not square, not rectangle. And of course, with switch structures, always put a break after each after each case, in case that one is true. So like if it's not a square, you don't want to break, right? But if it is a square, then you want break, meaning then leave. You don't go back to the next one, okay? Okay, so that is the void for print shape. But then the actual enum definition and code, remember enum, same as doing a function. So all this is now here, down here below int main, and I've got square type, square shape. Now right here, when it's got the square type, all right, it does come down here to see square type, and here my square type has my variable. Remember that variable I declared up here? Up here, square type, and then square shape with the 4 integers. So down here, once it hits square type in the void, it goes to look for square type, okay? And here's square type, and it wants my variable, not the actual, remember if it's just square type from the enum, then you can't change anything. So you can't use that one. You have to use your variable where you have these variable values. So square shape, int length 1, length 2, length 3, length 4. So it calls this from here before, in other words, before it can return a value, it goes to square type to figure out what's happening. And in square type, I'm using if statements. So if length 1 equal length 2, and length 2 equal length 3, and length 3 equal length 4, that would mean all 4 sides are the same. So 1 equals 2 equals 3 equals 4, and return square. So the return square comes here. Square in the void print shape. Because remember here, it's square type, and the square type shape just means return the value based upon that enum. So if it's square, all capital letters, then I want to show the user square, okay? If it's rectangle, that's what I'm typing out. If it's not square, not rectangle, that. But it would have to be one of these if I coded it correctly. Okay, so it's square. Now, in your case, getting back to the thing that you're doing, you're going to have obviously triangles, right? So if it's equilateral as an example, side 1 would be equal to side 2, and side 2 equal to side 3, or you could also say and side 1 equals side 3. And of course, you need the relational to equal, not the assignment, right? So you would do that and then return equilateral. Okay, all right. So back on mine, this one. Else if length 1 equals 2, so the first number equals the second number, and the third number equals the fourth number. So again, if the numbers are 10 and 20, well, if the first one is 10 and the second one is 10, so 1 equals 2 because 10 equals 10, and then the third number is 20 and the fourth number is 20, so then 20 equals 20. So 10 equals 10 and 20 equals 20 means 2 different sides match up, which means it's a rectangle. But with a square, and a rectangle technically, I mean, it's 4 sides, so there's a lot more choices to determine whether it's still a rectangle or not. So that's just one example of a rectangle. But you can also have length 1 equal length 3, and length 2 equal length 4. Okay, so here, that was the first one. 1 equals 2, and 3 equals 4, that's a rectangle. But 1 could also equal 3, meaning the first number is 10, the third number is 10, but then maybe the second and the fourth are both 20, right? So 10, 20, 10, 20. Well, yeah, 10 equals 10, so this length 1 equals length 3, and 20, length 2 equals 20, length 4. So again, that would be a rectangle. Same thing, and which it should be, okay? All right, and then also the first number could be the same as the last number, and the middle 2 could be the same. So length 1 could be 10, length 4 could be 10, length 2 could be 20, length 3 could be 20. So that would be length 1 equals 4, both 10, length 2 equals length 3, they're both 20. So that's 3 different ways you can get a rectangle. And if it's none of those, return not square, not rectangle. And here's what I've done for the test deck. If the user enters 10, 10, 10, and 10, square will be returned. I should say, I guess it should be returned, right? If you coded it, should be returned. Oops. Should be returned. If the user enters 10, 12, 12, 10, rectangle should be returned. Because that would be number 1 equaling number 4, and here number 2 equaling number 3. So 1 equal 4, 2 equal 3. Go up here. 1 equal 4, 2 equal 3. That's this one in line 60. Okay. And then if the user enters 10, 10, 12, 12, same thing, but here, so 1, 2, and 3, 4. I think that's what he just said. 10, that was the first one. Yeah, 10, 12, 10, wait. 10, 10, 12, well, whatever. You can just see these examples anyway. So if the user enters 10, 12, 12, 10, that would be that. If the user enters 10, 10, 12, 12, it's still a rectangle. If the user enters 10, 12, 10, 12, all these are slightly different, but it's 2 numbers matching up in each case, so it's always rectangle. And then for not square, not rectangle, I just put one example. So you would just put in a test deck of 10, 12, 13, and 10. Yeah, the 10 matches the 10. The 12 doesn't match the 13. Or the 10 doesn't match the 13, or then that last 10 doesn't match the 13. So either way, it's not 2 matches, okay? So that you would return this. So let me run it, and then we'll talk about it a bit more. And I'll just do this test X. So the first one is going to be 10, 10, 10, 10. So I'll say 10, 10, 10, and 10. So once I do 10 that many times, it says the shape is square. So remember, up here on the if length 1 equals length 2, and length 2 equals length 3, and length 3 equals length 4. It doesn't matter how you phrase this as long as you're accommodating that every number must match up with every other number. I could have said if length 1 equals length 2, and length 1 equals length 3, and length 1 equals length 4. I could have done it that way. It doesn't matter. Because here 1 is matching 2. So if 1 does match 2, and then 2 does match 3, and then 3 does match 4, it's the same thing, right? So whatever your logic is, but anyway, see, it did, the shape is square. So remember, again, I'm under int main now. So here is int main ends on line 26, okay? Then I went to my, my void function, meaning not value returning function, okay? And it calls square type, and square type, it comes down here for square type, and then square shape was the variable I declared for square type up here. Square shape, square type, and then square shape. This is the variable. The variable takes the values, not the enumerator's square, rectangle, or not square, not rectangle, but it takes the values of the numbers entered by the user. Remember, you can't, in other words, have input on your enum. I can't have input on any of these. I can't change it. That's an enum. Once it's made, is made. So in here, I'm using the variable. I'm using this. So down here again, under int main. So here int main ended line 26. So then the first line of code here is print shape square type. So print shape is the void. That is the void, meaning it's the value return, the non-value returning function I created on about line 10. Line 14, void print shape, square type shape. But now in the function, once it gets to void print shape, square type, now it's saying, oh, okay, wait, we have square type. So it comes down to square type. And in this case, square type would be the enum. But when it's square type with the variable, square shape is the variable, then it expects 4 arguments. And they all have to be integer based on what I did. Again, you go up here, square shape. Square shape, squares. Okay, so square type, square shape, and then I put 4 integers. Okay, so underneath int main again, print shape. Yes, it comes to square type. It's not going to first do square, rectangle, and whatever. It can't return these things until it goes here to find out what's going to happen, because print shape is taking the exact square type, meaning square, rectangle, or well, these case square in caps. Case rectangle in caps, case not square, not rectangle in caps. and then it's returning square, rectangle, or not square, not rectangle, depending on what the square type, but then, square type does here. And here, square type is using square shape, the variable, which means, oh, okay, there's 4 variables. Yes, I got to put length 1, length 2, and they, of course, come from the argument. Remember, we already had the user input on line 17, line 18, line 19, the CINs for length 1, length 2, length 3, length 4. And here, when we called print shape, we said print shape, square shape, and we put length 1, length 2. So it carried the 4 variables, right? Carried the 4 variables. So up here, because it's not a value returning function, here we're just typing out coot, square. That's if case square is the answer, okay? If case rectangle is the answer, it'll return rectangle right here. It's not returning it anywhere else. It's just typing it out with a coot statement. And that's perfectly fine. Remember, that's what a void does. Okay, and then not square, not rectangle returns that, all right? All right, now I know I did that fast and on purpose fast, but I think I think we accomplished a lot. So let me go ahead now and move this stuff over, okay? About like that. And let's go up and do this. Always takes me a long time. You know what? I'm happy with it there. So take a picture of line 1 through line 11. And you notice, and please remember this, guys, okay? There's 5 or 6 lines here, but that's one comment, right? In terms of code, you literally have pound include IOStream using namespace standard. Then you got 4 more lines, if you will, of comments. And then you got 1 enum. So in terms of code, 1, 2, so far 3 lines of code, okay? Then another comment. Please pay attention, of course, to these comments. Pay attention. And then I've got another line of code. 10 extends here, so it's 1 line. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code. Then I do my void, my non-value returning function. That's 5. So 5 lines of code above int main. And then in int main, I've got a variable, well, 1 line per 4 variables, then a coot statement, then a coot statement, and then I'm calling the function. So the whole thing is not more than 10 lines of code until we get down under int main. And then really it's 2 things. And this is the part I don't want you to get confused on, but it's easy to get confused. When you're coming down here, just remember that it is a void. It's not returning a value, okay, to a calling procedure. But what it's doing is it's putting the answer in this void print shape, square type shape function, okay? But for it to do this stuff, though, it can't just guess. That's where square type, okay, comes into play. So it goes down to square type. Here's square type, right? But here square type is the variable, and the variable for square type is actually called square shape. And here, those 4 values that it took down from int main with right here, these 4 variables, int length 1 through length 4, now they're down here and they just get plugged into the same 4 variable names. And then it's just doing the if statement logic. And see here, return square. Where does it return square to? Well, square type, square shape is the variable, but it was called right here, print shape, square type. So it's returning this to line 29, but line 29, the void print shape through the cases, so from lines 29 to 42 here are not doing, they're not returning anything. If it's square, we're just putting a coot statement, typing square. That'll pop up like over here. It said the shape is square, okay? All right, so now getting back to the picture. So please take a picture of lines 1 through 11, okay? And I'll give you 10 more seconds. I think I was a little faster today, but you know, I think it accomplished, I hope anyway, it accomplishes quite a bit because there's not a lot of code that we covered. And I mentioned that it wouldn't be. Chapter 7 is a short chapter. It's 50 total pages, 31 total slides. But it's important to understand how to use an enum, and that's where it's confusing. I mean, yeah, I tried to cover everything I did. And specifically, the reason I did this one is because it's pretty close to triangles. And I wanted you to be able to make it work for yours. Okay? All right, so that's 1 through 11. Now let's go down. So I want 12. All right, so now 12 through, get that away. Yeah, let's make this one go down a little bit. Let's make this go here a little bit. All right, so 12 to 26, okay? So take a picture of that. Take your time. We're doing so good. Let's say 15 seconds. Take 15 whole seconds. Okay. So that now is through the end of int main on line 26. So this picture is from line 12 to line 26. Obviously, you see 27 and 28 are nothing, but that's because I wanted to not have previous picture stuff. So now I'm going to scroll down to 28 or 29. Okay, 29. And it's not going to quite finish. Shoot. But anyway, it's all right. So just do the picture there from line 29 down to the first part of line 47. Okay, so 15 more seconds. Now remember though, when you're typing this stuff in to do this, square or rectangle or not square, not rectangle version of the triangles, that you type everything the way I type it or it won't work. You know, if you want to see square returned, then you must spell square in that case statement on line 35 with capital SQUARE. And also it had to have been declared in the enum up top as SQUARE, square in caps. Same with rectangle, same with not square, not rectangle. The COOT statements, as you know, are just putting output to the screen. So we're typing the word square normal style, like capital letter S, and then the small letters QUARE, because we're returning it to the user. You know, so you don't want it to be little. So you have a capital S and then everything else little. Okay. All right. So that's line 47. Then the bottom part of line 47 would be that one. Oh, we still got more. Let's see, not to int main, but to void function. Yeah, I have too many stupid, not stupid, obviously. Comments are very important. Not to int main, but void function definition, but void function, but void function definition above. Okay, that would be 1. Checking to see if 2 of 4 comparisons are equal. So let's make this 2 of 4, so we don't need all that. And 4 are equal. Just say check to see. 4 are equal. If so, let's say triangle. If so, a triangle. Okay, or a rectangle. Okay. All right. Not to int main, but to avoid to, let's see, not to int main, but to void function. Not to int main, meaning we're not returning it to int main, but to void. I'll just say to the void function. So I don't think we really need to void. How about void function above there? Okay, void function above. And again, but to void function above, but to void function. Okay, now let's see, and then that's a test stack. Oh shoot, what? Dang it! Oh, it was right there. It was 47. Yeah, the bottom part of line 47 for sure. So that, but I still don't get it all. Oh, darn it! Oh well, I apologize. Anyway, yeah, here is where I waste my time though. So just do a picture then from the bottom of line 47 there where it says length 4. That's part of line 47 though, so understand that. Maybe I should darn well show it to you this way again, even though you got 47, but this will tell you, yeah, I'm going to do it that way now. Let's see. And then that'll take us to the else. And then there'll just be one more line or 2. All right, so 47 to 66, I guess. All right. And now, though, there won't be much. All right, so 67, 66, I think I said 66, so right there, and that includes the test deck. All right, all right. So in my humble opinion, this is very, very doable for you to convert it now to Prague XR 7-1. I'm not going to repeat all of what I said at the beginning in terms of what you have to do, but I'll kind of quickly just recap it one more time. Parts of it, I can't put everything in, it'd be just too hard, but it's not much. So here, where I have my enum square type, okay, that, you would have enum triangle type, okay, and do it everything the way I do. So triangle in small letters, and then triangle, type in the capital T. So just change the word square for triangle in small letters. And then you type, so instead of these values I have, you type scalene, comma, isosceles, comma, equilateral, comma, no triangle. And then close curly, semicolon, okay? You can look up how to spell those words. Please spell them correctly. Okay, it's important because everything has to work, and it won't work if you spell things wrong and in a different way somewhere else. So you do it that way on that one, and then that's done. Then the next line of code is line 10. Then for line 10, you do what it says above it. So you're going to then do, I'll get that thread going, come on. Okay, then, hate it when it does all this silly stuff for me. Why does it not go away? See, here's where I'm wasting time. Anyway, this is your next line of code. So where I have square type, all right, you're going to have triangle type, okay? Same thing, triangle small letters, and then type with a capital T. So just replace square for triangle, right? And then you can call it, like I've got square shape. So if you want to call it triangle shape, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. But then you put in, after the opening parentheses in this case, you type double side 1, double side 2, double side 3, then the closing parentheses and a semicolon. So you don't have 4 variables. So right after this 3 is where you would close your parentheses out and put a semicolon, okay? So then that is done. Then the next thing, so everything above int main, you're doing the same. So for void, and again, you know your void definition, what I'm doing it for is above it, but where I typed void print shape, I suggested that you also type void print shape. And then where I have square type, yours should be triangle type. And then where I have shape, you can have triangle, or if you want to leave it as shape, as long as that works and it doesn't disrupt the program, then you can have it shape, but just be consistent with what you have. Okay, then where I have these 4 variables, you have to have 3 variables because you have double for side 1, double for side 2, and double for side 3. So you can do exactly this, but just instead of int, this one here. But you also don't need the 4th one. So just double side 1, though not length. Side 1, comma, side 2, comma, side 3, semicolon. That's your 3 variables. Okay, that's perfectly done. Then you have to just call your function. Well, here, that's int main, and here it's already only a few lines later. You don't need to make anything different. Again, other than making sure that if you use print shape, which I asked you to do, then where mine is square shape, remember square shape is up here. So you got to look at mine. When you see the same word, that's where you put it. So remember square type was the enum, and then I create a variable called square shape. So down here, on print shape, then square shape, this is my variable. You need this to be your variable. So you have print shape, and that's perfectly fine, okay? Then you put, so whatever your variable is, yours should be triangle shape or whatever I suggested. So if it's triangle shape, then length, side 1, side 2, side 3, okay? Yours in here, remember we're in int main. In int main, you don't put the data types. So you just put these values, and again, in your case, after length, side 3, close it down, close the curly, and you got 2 curly, curly, parentheses, parenthesis, sorry, geez, I get so confused. So you have an opening parenthesis after print shape, another opening parenthesis after square shape, and then you have to close those two open parentheses with closed parentheses after length 3 and then semicolon. And then technically you can do everything really in this thing here with if statements, but you know, that's enough at this point, okay? So you can go ahead and do that. And then void print shape, I said you should keep it that way. And then instead of square type, yours should be, again, triangle type. And then I said if you want to use shape, great, because you are returning a shape, so that's perfectly fine this way. And then you can have a switch with shape if you want to. And then you just do it down below by calling this and do your if statements down here. Okay, in square shape, remember this is the variable again, the variable for the enum. Okay, so if you have the variable, well, you will have a variable for the enum, so you can do it down here if you want, and then just put your logic. And then when you're saying these return, like doing everything I'm doing, this return square only comes up to void print shape, square type shape. So as long as you have the same things here, in your case, you'd have isosceles, you'd have scalene, you'd have equilateral, and you'd have not triangle. And obviously, if they tell you which order is work, like you start with equilateral or you start with isosceles, you start with scaling. Whichever one they tell you to start with is what you do. If they don't tell you to start with a particular one, do the same order, you know, in each case. All right. All right, that's enough. Have a great day. I hope you truly, truly, truly loved my recording. Hey, you know, if you do love my recordings, you can put some nice things in your comments about me. Oh, surely you can. Surely you guys can acknowledge poor Professor Maloney. I think it's time for your feedback anyway. So do some feedback on your professor. If you don't like me, then say you don't like me. But put why if you don't, please. If you like me, then darn well put some good things about me. All right. All right. Have a great day, guys. I shall see you in class on the 18th, Thursday the 18th. All right. Have a great day. Bye. Stopped. Go here. Let's go here. Stop. Oh wait, I'm